These are the 20 things that you need to know before the next NBA season. Number 1, a comeback season from Damian Lillard will make the Bucks a top 2 team in the Eastern Conference. Last season, due to injuries, a late trade, and some family matters off the court, Damian Lillard saw a downtick in both scoring production and efficiency. But as the season went on and he played himself into shape, there was a noticeable difference. In the first round series against the Indiana Pacers, Damian Lillard was right back to his 32 points a game when he was available in the series. But because of a tweak in his Achilles and Giannis not suiting up for a single minute, Milwaukee fell in 6 games. Now with a full offseason to come to terms with who he's playing with, where he's playing, and who he's playing for, I would expect Damian Lillard to get right back to his Portland Trail Blazers form. Now I'm not saying he's going to be averaging 32 points a game like he did in 2023, but what I am saying is he's going to get back to that kind of efficiency. And perhaps even better than that now he's alongside Giannis. The pick and roll chemistry between Lillard and Antetokounmpo got better as the season went on. As in a game versus the Clippers, they made history as the pair combined for 69 points and 21 assists. First, you're going to see a 3-man game as Lopez is in a DHO and gives to Giannis, who will then give to Lillard for an open triple for Dame. Now it's Dame who gives to Giannis, creating the one-on-one matchup against Zubac. And because man doesn't want to double off of Dame, Giannis gets 2. Here, Giannis doesn't even have to commit to setting the screen, as man moves out of the way, basically handing Dame another open 3. Here in the high screen and roll, both defenders go to Lillard, leaving the most dominant roller the game has ever seen, all by himself for 2. Then in the same action, both defenders are scared of the 3 ball again, leaving Giannis open. And this time, Dame finds him on the alley-oop. This is a play that I really like, as this time it's an inverted pick and roll, and Lillard fakes that he's going to collect the ball, and instead he sets the screen, allowing Giannis to get the open driving lane. Then down the stretch of the game, the Bucks leaned on the Dame Giannis pick and roll. Now with Giannis getting too many looks, the Clippers change their coverage, as here only one goes to Dame. But Dame is good enough to notice that Amir Coffey is playing him hard right, so Lillard steps back left into space and knocks it down. After seeing this, the Clippers were forced to send an extra defender into the 2-man game, which this time leaves Brook Lopez open on the weak side, and Dame finds him for 3. As soon as you try and send extras to the 2-man game, you're going to leave capable 3-point shooters wide open. Here, Giannis sets a great screen, allowing Dame the space for a 3-ball over Zubac. And then to end the game, it's a dribble handoff from Giannis that gives Dame a sliver of daylight, who's able to connect on a tough triple. With Lillard bouncing back to Portland form, along with the chemistry of Giannis improving, this Bucks team is going to be incredibly difficult to beat when healthy. The second thing you need to know before the next NBA season starts is the fact that Ja Morant is coming to take his seat back from Anthony Edwards. To start the season, Ja Morant had to serve a 25-game suspension, but once he returned in mid-December, so did the Memphis Grizzlies. As over the 9 games he was available for last season, the Grizzlies had a 6-3 record, with victories coming over the Lakers, Pelicans, and Pacers. These numbers were particularly impressive when you see the Grizzlies' record without Ja, which was 21-52. It's easy to look at these numbers and say this is his impact, but truthfully, there's a lot more that goes into this conversation, as we need to see some game footage. In his first game back after the 25-game suspension, he scored 34 points in only 35 minutes. As to start, he grabs the offensive rebound and then is able to finish around Valanciunas for 2. Then out on the run, he makes a perfectly timed pass to Zaire Williams for the finish. Then with the screen from Jaren Jackson Jr., he makes the cross-court pass to Aldama for a triple. Now he showed us why he's one of a kind, knifing his way through the defense, getting all the way to the basket for 2. Coming off a Bismack Biyombo screen, he hangs in the air to beat Zeller and then simply drops it in. His speed, even in his first game back, was impressive, as here he beats CJ and Jonas, drawing the foul and 1. Then here his speed was too much for Alvarado, gliding to the basket for 2. Then of course, it was the end of this game that we all remember, as first Ja makes a play to the basket using a spin and a floater to take the lead. Then tied at 111, Ja makes an incredible finish around Zion and Herb to retake the lead again. However, the Pelicans didn't blink, getting baskets after each of these shots. But with time running down and the ball in Morant's hands, he would decide this game. And did he ever, dropping in the game-winning basket in his return. This would then lead to the 9-game span of the Grizzlies' dominance. However, it was short-lived, as a shoulder injury would sideline Ja Morant for the rest of the regular season. Since Ja has been out, all the media attention he was getting went to Anthony Edwards and SGA. But I fully expect to see a healthy, motivated Ja Morant dominate the NBA once again, leading his Grizzlies to the top of the Western Conference once more. The third thing that you need to know before the next NBA season is just how dominant the Thunder will be. Of course, last season, the OKC Thunder became the youngest 1 seed in the history of the NBA. But over the course of the off-season, it's become clear that there are 5 key reasons as to why the Thunder will do much much better this coming season. The first reason is to do with SGA now being a top 5 player in the game, as last season he averaged 30 points on 53% shooting. Again, it's just easy to mention stats, so I'll take a deeper dive using footage to prove my point. Here, down 1 in Denver, Shai gets to a turnaround fadeaway and knocks it down for the game. Then against the Knicks in the Garden, SGA made another fall-away shot for the win. His skill set in the mid-range is deadly, and with the 3-ball getting better each season, SGA is so hard to guard. Now on the baseline with the bigger Paolo Banchero, he creates the separation with a step back and knocks it down, sending Orlando home. You don't want to pick him up too early either, as here he loses bogey for a pull-up triple. Even when the defense plays him well, it doesn't matter. Here finishing around 2 Kings defenders for 2. Shai is methodical with the ball in hand, keeping in mind his direct matchup, here recognizing the bigger Harrison Barnes so he gets to a jump shot. But then with a smaller defender on him, he'll usually take them to the paint or just shoot over them. Here blowing by Dennis Schroeder for a throwdown. With more possessions with the ball in his hands without Giddey, look out for SGA next season. The second reason why the Thunder will be much better next season is because of the signing of Alex Caruso. Bringing in AC was a massive move that instantly raised the ceiling for this Thunder team. With Alex Caruso, you're getting one of, if not the best defensive guards in basketball to pair with Lou Dort. The defense from Caruso is a known strength of his, but it's what he did offensively for Chicago last season that was so important. Last season, Caruso was excellent from deep, shooting 40% from downtown, as here he knocks down the corner triple. It's unclear if they'll be starting AC or bringing him off the bench, but either way, what a weapon to have in either role. Here DeRozan swings the ball to Caruso and he's good enough to knock it down. But it wasn't just easy shots that he was making, as here to send the game to overtime against Milwaukee, he curls off a screen and knocks down the long ball. This wasn't a one-off either, as here against the Raptors, he gets the defensive stop on one end and makes the game-winning triple on the other. To get Caruso, the Thunder had to deal Josh Giddey in a straight swap, which was a massive win. Not to say Josh Giddey is a bad player by any stretch, it's just that he needs the ball to be effective within the team's offense. As if you look at the games where SGA was out and Giddey was the starting point guard, he had great games. But with the ball going to SGA more and more, Josh Giddey found himself in a replaceable position, as his 3-point shooting numbers are below average, and then when you look at the lack of defense, it wasn't hard to see why the Thunder felt the need to swap him for Alex Caruso. Then the third reason why the Thunder will be much better next season is to do with the experience from J-Dub as he enters year 3. Jalen Williams was the second best player on the OKC Thunder last season, and if I had to pick the most improved player coming into this season, I'd pick him. As in his second season as a pro, he was able to put up 19 4-on-4 on an effective 54% shooting, while also having the tools to one day become an elite defender. On offense, he's basically just good at everything, shooting 42% from deep, connecting on mid-range hits at 46%, while also being comfortable getting to the cup thanks to his handles. Here he does just that, using his ball handle to get deep into the paint for 2. Then out on the break, he's able to use a quick crossover to beat the Kings defense back for 2 more. Now he'll again use his ball handle, this time creating the separation needed to knock down a mid-range jump shot. Here in a tight game against the Pelicans, he's able to bail out SGA with a pull-up 3, but it's not just off the bounce where he can score, as here he knocks down the catch-and-shoot 3 from Giddey. With Jalen Williams being a Swiss Army knife for this OKC Thunder team, he's definitely a reason why the Thunder will be great next season. The fourth reason why the Thunder will be dominant again next season is because of Chet Holmgren's two-way play. On both sides of the ball, Chet had an elite rookie season, putting up 16, 8, and 2 on 53% shooting, while also swatting away 2.3 shots per game. What makes him such a perfect fit on the offensive side of the ball is his 3-point shooting, as he's able to knock down deep balls at a 36% clip. Then when we talk about his defense, it kind of went overlooked last season, just because of what his fellow rookie Victor Wembanyama was doing. But the fact of the matter is, this kind of shot blocking as a rookie, along with the efficient scoring, is not normal. Here the Mavericks set up the role for Derek Lively, however Chet is right there to send him back with 2 hands. Then later in the game, Dallas tried to lure him out, and even though it looked like it had worked, he was still able to recover back to Washington to get the block. Then offensively, he can do it all. Here knocking down the long ball from Dort, and then here with Sabonis, he's able to use some tough footwork to get a fadeaway in the mid-range, which he drills. And then like any other big man in this league, Chet can also be an inside presence in the paint, here finishing on the alley-oop. Then reason number 5 why the Thunder will be so dominant again next season is because of the signing of Isaiah Hartenstein. Hart made a name for himself with the Knicks in last season's playoffs. Hartenstein does everything apart from shooting 3 balls, as he's a great rebounder rebounder, shot blocker, playmaker, and an elite screener. The rebounding in particular will be a huge asset for the Thunder next season because they ranked 29th and 28th in offensive and defensive rebounding last season. In the second round series against Dallas, their lack of size was put on full display as the Mavericks continued to go to Gafford and Lively in the pick and roll actions, exposing the Thunder's big man depth. But now with the front court of Holmgren and Hartenstein, this Thunder team, similar to the Boston Celtics, really don't have any weaknesses. From three-point shooting to overall scoring and defense, there's nothing the Thunder will struggle at next season, as they're a complete team from top to bottom and should be the 1 seed again. The fourth thing you need to know before the next NBA season is how we might just be witnessing the first postseason that doesn't feature LeBron James, Stephen Curry, or Kevin Durant since 2004. Because of other rising teams in the Western Conference, which we'll get into more deeply later in the video, there's a high chance that the Lakers, Warriors, and Suns will all miss out on the postseason. Such a feat would truly mark the end of an era, and more importantly, a beginning of a new chapter. With Golden State failing to sign Paul George, losing Klay Thompson, and not being able to trade for Lauri Markkanen, they were not able to improve upon their roster in the offseason. For the Suns, the addition of Tyus Jones was an important one, but for me, if they bring him off the bench for Bradley Beal, the Suns will have the same issues as they had last season, with 3 ball-dominant scorers having to share 1 basketball. Then for the Lakers, they also did not improve upon their roster, deciding to run it back with a team that lost in the first round at full strength and is also getting older. Out of these 3 teams, I believe that the Suns have the highest chance to still make the playoffs due to Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, but out of the 3 teams, I'd give the Lakers the highest ceiling. As if JJ Redick can figure out a strong offense for the Lakers, you can never count out LeBron James and Anthony Davis. The 5th thing you need to know before the next NBA season is how the Philadelphia 76ers are highly overrated. I know a lot of people will not agree with this take, but hear me out. I believe that this Sixers squad will only go as far as Joel Embiid takes them, which so far in his career is only as far as the second round. The addition of Paul George is an impactful one, but for me it doesn't really move the needle, as if Embiid gets hurt or just isn't playing well, Paul George and Tyrese Maxey alone won't be good enough to beat the Bucks, Celtics, or Knicks. For this reason, I'd put the Sixers as the 4th best team in the Eastern Conference next season, even if they end up having a higher seed than that. Another factor that would, in my opinion, derail the 76ers' chance at a championship is if they elect Paul George to be the second option over Maxey. What this would do is stunt the growth that Tyrese made last year without James Harden, as instead of his 26 points a game that he averaged last season, those numbers would dwindle down to somewhere around 15 points a game. I know it makes more sense for the point guard to take the step back, but in this case, I just don't see this working out for the Sixers long term. As if you keep denying Tyrese Maxey the opportunity to become a real focal point within the team's offense, he's going to get sick of it at some point. Paul George has also not proven anything over Tyrese Maxey so far throughout his career, as for years now, he's either underperformed or not been healthy for the postseason. And as each season passes, the chances of him being able to put together a title-worthy playoff run become lower and lower, and that's why I think the Sixers are overrated. The 6th thing you need to know before the next NBA season is how Zion Williamson is about to have a top 15 worthy season. Last season, we witnessed something extraordinary in the career of Zion Williamson. After the in-season tournament game against the Lakers, where they were ran off the floor, he was called out by the media regarding his weight. In the past, we've seen this story before, and what ends up happening is Zion just ignoring the media and nothing happening. But this time, he took it in his stride, as by the time the play-in tournament rolled around, he was playing at an elite level on both sides of the floor. However, an injured hamstring right at the end of the game saw him miss out on the postseason, as the Pelicans were handled in 4 straight games by the OKC Thunder. The reports are that Zion has dropped so much weight in the off-season that he actually weighs around the same as he did in his college days. With a lighter frame, Zion will be quicker and in theory much more durable. Also, the trade for DeJounte Murray has already yielded positive effects, as Zion has clearly been more motivated than ever to keep up with his fitness. If Zion comes into the season fit and healthy, alongside the addition of Murray, I could definitely see the Pelicans being a top 5 team in the West next season if they also make a trade for a quality big man. The 8th thing that you need to know before the next NBA season is just how good the CP3-Wemby pairing will really be. Even last season, Victor Wembanyama was a top 20 player in the league, posting impressive rookie averages of 21.4 points, 10.6 rebounds, and a league-leading 3.6 blocks per game. His points per game could have been even higher too if he had a real point guard next to him, as there were times where his teammates either couldn't get him the ball or didn't notice he was open. But now with arguably the greatest passer in the history of basketball with the point guard, I don't see this happening very much next season. Of course, when you're 7'5", finishing is going to be a strength of yours, but it's not just right at the cup where Wemby's able to finish plays. As here with Aaron Gordon, he uses a quick in and out dribble and a bump to create the separation needed to bank it off the glass for two. Here Jamal Murray tries to make the outlet pass, but Wemby's right there to pick it off, as he then goes coast to coast for a nasty slam. Victor is so good around the basket, as all you've got to do is throw it up in the general area, and chances are he's going to throw it down. As now it's Vassell who knifes his way through the defense to draw the contest over Rudy Gobert, which frees up Wembanyama for the alley-oop slam. Also, the addition of Harrison Barnes is an important one, as it not only adds another vet to the locker room, but it also gives them more defense, as the Spurs defense last season was terrible. For me, I'm high on the San Antonio Spurs coming into next season, as if Chris Paul can still pass the basketball and Wemby takes a leap in his game, the Spurs have a real chance to make the playoffs over teams like Golden State, the Lakers and Suns. The ninth thing you need to know before the next NBA season is that even though Denver lost KCP, they're still the team to beat out west. Even after losing Bruce Brown and KCP over the last two off seasons, this Nuggets team is still good enough to go all the way, and I'll show you why. First, Nikola Jokic is still the best player in the world, as he won his third MVP with averages of 26, 12 and 9 on 58% shooting. Then when you pair that playmaking ability with the athleticism of Aaron Gordon and the shooting of MPJ, Jokic still has his go-to guys to get the ball to when he's double-teamed. And perhaps his best passing option is Jamal Murray, who's a bona fide scorer in his own right. As in the series against the Lakers, he was unstoppable, averaging 24 points, 7 assists, and a block, helping the Nuggets to a gentleman's sweep of the Lakers. However, Jamal Murray was again dealing with injuries last season, as a lower leg issue saw a downtick in his efficiency, as he only shot 40% from the floor in the playoffs, down from his 47% in the championship year. The addition of Russell Westbrook will help them get out and run with the second unit, but what it won't do is fill the hole of KCP, as that duty will likely go to the third-year player Christian Brown. If Brown can shoot a better percentage from three to at least become a threat from deep, Denver will be in good shape, as he virtually does everything else. For the Nuggets to win another title, a lot more is going to have to swing their way than before. But that doesn't mean it's over, as with Jokic playing MVP level ball, a healthy Jamal Murray, and Aaron Gordon locking up on defense and finishing at the rim, Denver will remain a force in the Western Conference. Then the 10th thing you need to know before the start of the next NBA season is how the Celtics are still the best team in the league. Even though I think the Celtics will get off to a rocky start without KP, because of the injury Porzingis suffered in the playoffs last season, the Celtics have already announced that KP won't be seeing the court until the new year. With little bench depth at the big man position, the Celtics could start slow next season, as Boston would be relying on a near 40-year-old Al Horford to start games, along with Luke Cornett or Xavier Tillman coming off the bench, which won't bode well against other dominant front courts in the East, such as the Bucks and the Sixers. But as long as the Celtics are around the 3 seed once he returns, they will be fine come playoff time, if healthy of course. As last season the starting lineup of Drew, D. White, Brown, Tatum and KP was the best in the league, outscoring opponents by 11 points per game. As with this starting lineup, they have every asset covered, being able to play elite defense and offense. The 11th thing that you need to know before the next season starts is how Klay Thompson will have a resurgence in Dallas. People are forgetting who Klay Thompson really is, as now that he's back to being a third option on an offense like he was with Curry and Durant, Klay will get back to being a productive 3-and-D type player. Within the Mavericks offense, he's going to receive ball screens to free him up for his catch and shoot opportunities, as between Gafford, Washington and Lively, they have plenty of good ball screeners, which will allow Klay Thompson to get a lot more open looks than he was getting last season with the Warriors. There's also going to be a lot more space on the court for him to work into. Now he's alongside Luka and Kyrie Irving, who demand a majority of an opposing defense's attention. With the Mavericks, Klay Thompson is going to get the chance to show his former team why they should have just paid him the money he thought he deserved. Last season with Golden State, he shot 38% from 3, which is actually above league average. But it's his lack of ability to get downhill that hurt his overall shooting numbers. As since the injuries, Klay Thompson has been able to put together a season where he shot over 43% from the field. However, this hasn't been a strength for Klay throughout his entire career, as even in the 2019 season with KD and Curry alongside him, he still only shot 46% from the floor, which is only 3 percentage points higher. What's going to be the most important part of this season for Klay Thompson will undoubtedly be chemistry. If Dallas comes out all guns blazing at the start of the season, playing a fast pace and running the ball up the floor, this will benefit Thompson, as the ball will likely be moving on offense. But if Luka and Kyrie are still dealing with nagging injuries, the Mavericks could fall into a slower play style, which could hinder Klay's ability to find an open shot. But if we focus on the best case scenario, which is Dallas running the ball, Klay will will thrive in this role, making timely baskets like Ray Allen was when he went to Miami. Now with less pressure to make plays off the dribble, I fully expect Klay Thompson to have one of his most efficient seasons, helping the Mavericks to make another deep playoff push. The 12th thing that you need to know before the next NBA season starts is how DeMar DeRozan with the Kings will put them back into the playoffs. Sure, DeRozan isn't the player he used to be, having a down year with Chicago last season, but now that he's with the Kings, he's not going to have to be the number one option on offense, as De'Aaron Fox will likely be taking the majority of the team's shots. DeMar DeRozan's ability to score in isolation is something the Kings have been in desperate need for years now, as once they lost Monk and Herter due to injuries at the end of last season, the Kings' offense grinded to a halt. Fox, Sabonis, and Keegan Murray weren't able to generate consistent offense, especially once the possessions began to slow down, forcing De'Aaron Fox to take tougher shots. Once they lost Malik Monk, there really wasn't a secondary shot creator on the floor. Domantas Sabonis is a great playmaker for his position, but he's unable to generate offense for himself. Keegan Murray is still very limited at this stage of his career, as he's mainly just making catch and shoot shots. But this is where DeMar DeRozan will make the biggest difference for the Kings. With his well-known ability to generate offense out of isolation and in the mid-range, he's going to be able to keep the scoreboard ticking over even when the game slows down. The plays I'm going to show you are all in isolation situations, which is where the Kings will be needing him. Here with his back to the basket, DeMar makes a quick, decisive move to the rim for two. Scoring in isolation is all about making quick and decisive decisions to beat your opponent, as he now uses a series of pivots to rise up over Caleb Martin, drawing the foul and one. Now with his back to the basket on Jason Tatum, DeRozan will quickly fake middle and then fade back into space for the jumper. Here with the bigger Lauri Markkanen on him, he's going to face him up and use a crossover to get by for the reverse jam. Here again with Markkanen, DeMar uses a step through move to create the angle to score. With the Kings' isolation game being very weak, DeMar will definitely help them out. But on just how good of a fit DeMar DeRozan will be with the Kings is admittedly not the best, but it's not horrible either. DeRozan is super durable, as he actually leads the NBA in total minutes played last season, and while playing all these extra minutes, he also averaged a career low in turnovers per game. And as for his perceived poor three-point shooting, DeMar shot 33% on 3 attempts per game in 2024, which is not horrible. This paired with his ability to generate offense all by himself will take some much-needed pressure off of guys like Fox, Monk, and Sabonis, as he's more than capable to generate offense every single time down the floor for the Kings if need be. The 13th thing that you're going to need to know before the next NBA season starts is just how good the Orlando Magic will be. Last season, the Magic made the postseason, led by Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner, who gave Orlando a combined 42 points per night. But in the playoffs, it was Banchero that stood up, as he averaged 27, 7, and 8 on 45% shooting, pushing Cleveland to a 7th game. These numbers are truly LeBron-like, as in only year 2, Banchero looks like he's the real deal. Here in Game 3, Banchero piled on 31 points and 14 rebounds, leading the Magic to a win, and this is how he did it. Here, even though Mobley plays great defense, Paolo is still able to get this one to go. Now it's Franz Wagner who draws in the defense to allow the kick-out pass to Banchero for an open triple. Here, Wagner runs out of room, so he kicks it back out to Paolo, who gets another 3 ball to go. Now it's Banchero who will set a screen for Cole Anthony, who's able to get it back to him on the roll. And using a soft touch, Paolo gets 2 with a floater. Here with Cleveland in a zone, Banchero smartly positions himself at the top of the free throw line to bust the zone. Once the Cavs defense collapses, he fakes the pass to Franz and then makes a tough fall-away shot over Jared Allen. Now on defense, he strips Donovan Mitchell, as he's then able to quickly push the pace and find Suggs open for a triple. I feel like I need to remind you guys that Evan Mobley is an elite defender, but here Banchero makes him look lost, waltzing his way to what looks like an easy mid-range hit. Then on Mobley again, Paolo Banchero will get to a step-back triple and knock it down. It should have been a crime that nobody was talking about just how good this kid already is in year 2. Then with the smaller Max Strus on him, he makes a LeBron-like play, losing him with the pump fake and then finding Wendell Carter down low for the slam. Now again with Strus, Banchero shows off his mid-range jumper again, knocking down the long 2. This shot on Isaac Okoro was absolutely ridiculous. He is stepping back for another hit. In the 7 games against the Cavs, Paolo Banchero put on on full display just how high his ceiling really is. But meanwhile, for Franz Wagner, he saw a drop in production, only averaging 19 points on 40% shooting, and in the closeout Game 7, he went 1 of 15 from the floor. Even though Franz didn't meet expectations, the Magic still re-signed him to a 5-year, $224 million deal, which was a questionable decision to say the least, but only time will tell if it was a good one or not. But one great move that the Magic front office made was to sign the two-time champion Kentavious Caldwell-Pope after the Nuggets didn't want to pay him the money he thought he deserved. KCP is a huge addition for the Orlando Magic, as he gives them a great locker room presence and the championship DNA required to push this team to the next level. Then on the court, he's an elite three-point shooter, making 40% of his shots from downtown, and on defense, he's able to clamp up opposing guards. With Paolo Banchero heading into his 3rd season and the new addition of KCP, this Orlando Magic team will be no pushovers next season, and that's for sure. The 14th thing you need to know before the next NBA season is how we're about to witness the rise of Jonathan Kuminga. When the Warriors were in trade discussions surrounding Paul George, it was first thought that the Clippers were just being petty, not wanting to make Golden State better, as instead the Clippers elected to give up their superstar for nothing, instead of maybe getting something back from Golden State. However, this actually wasn't the case, as reports came out that shined light onto the real reason the deal wasn't made, and those reasons were due to the Warriors not wanting to trade Jonathan Kuminga. In the coming years, this decision will either be looked upon as a horrible mistake or a masterstroke. Now personally, I don't think it was a horrible decision. I mean, Paul George hasn't exactly delivered in the playoffs for the Clippers recently, either being injured or just underperforming, and Kuminga has quietly had a great start to his career. For example, if we take the first 3 seasons of his career and put them side by side with the first 3 seasons of the career of Giannis Antetokounmpo, they look very similar. Now, I'm not saying that Jonathan Kuminga is the next coming of Giannis, but when Giannis was drafted into the NBA, he was a very raw talent, only averaging 6.8 points in year 1. But then in year 2, he upped those numbers to 12.7, and by year 3, he was averaging 17 points per game. This is important because over the next 3 seasons, Giannis would average over 20 points per game, becoming a rising star in the league, which then led him to win multiple MVPs, a Defensive Player of the Year, and a championship. With the current timeline of Jonathan Kuminga heading into his 4th season, this is where Giannis began to assert himself as a rising star. If Jonathan Kuminga can even accomplish half of what Giannis did, the Golden State Warriors would have made the right decision. With the Warriors not trading Kuminga, they clearly still believe that he could develop into a superstar, and personally, I don't think it's crazy to suggest that. If JK can give the Dubs 22, 8, and 5 like Giannis did in year 4, this will go a long way to Golden State playing into late May. The 15th thing you need to know before the next NBA season is about the situation in Charlotte. If you didn't already know, LaMelo Ball is an incredibly talented player. From his offensive package to his unreal playmaking, LaMelo should be a top point guard in the league. However, because of injuries and off-court shenanigans, LaMelo hasn't played enough games to cement himself as a rising star. Taken in the same draft as Anthony Edwards, his career has had a very different path, with LaMelo still trying to put together a fully healthy season, while Anthony Edwards just led his Timberwolves to the conference finals. With Michael Jordan out of the door, Charlotte have made some big changes, bringing in new management and a new coach. This new management group will have a fresh pair of eyes on the situation at hand, and now that the Hornets struck gold with Brandon Miller, Charlotte might look to lean more toward him, which would either see LaMelo become the second option, or they would look to trade him. In only his rookie season, Brandon Miller averaged 17, 4, and 2 on 44% shooting, as he's looking like the next coming of Paul George. So with elite company, LaMelo needs to have a comeback season, with not only just his availability, but his play on the court. I'd personally like to see LaMelo adjust his shot selection, as he often finds himself taking really tough off-the-bounce triples that hurt his numbers and, most importantly, the offensive flow of his team. Despite the sometimes questionable shots, he still shot 35% from deep. And when you look deeper into the numbers, they tell the same story as the eye test. From above the break, which is where he takes his off-the-bounce triples, LaMelo shot 32%, which is below league average, compared to his 70% shooting in the right corner and 40% shooting in the left. Now, these in-the-corner shots do have lower volume, but he's still making them. And most importantly, these shots are coming off the catch, not off the bounce. These are the shots I would love to see him take more often, and if he does, it'll not only help out his game, but his team's also. The 16th thing you need to know before the next NBA season is how the Houston Rockets are going to make a return to postseason action. situation. Last year, the Rockets finished the season with a record of 41-41, a 19-game improvement from the previous year. The addition of head coach Ime Udoka brought a much-needed sense of identity and culture, helping the young players develop in an environment geared toward winning. Before Udoka, the Rockets were a chaotic mess under Stephen Silas, and in the 2022-23 season, they were ranked 29th in defensive rating. However, last season they made a huge turnaround and actually ranked 9th best in defense, signaling a big step forward. Despite this progress, the team still lacks offensive play, as they ranked 20th worst in the league. The addition of rookie Reed Sheppard is expected to boost their offense significantly. Sheppard's ability to shoot from deep and his impressive performance in the Summer League, where he averaged 20 points per game, show his potential impact. His dribble handoff game with Alfred Şengün and Steven Adams will be a key asset, as his high basketball IQ, vision, and passing skills will improve the team's spacing and ball movement. Reed Sheppard just feels like a perfect fit for the Rockets, and they should feel lucky that he landed in their laps. Another key addition to the team's success will be a healthy Tari Eason. Unfortunately for Eason, he had to undergo season-ending surgery last year, limiting him to just 22 games. This was a stark contrast to his rookie season, where he played all 82. Looking on the bright side though, Eason is a great young talent, and he fits in perfectly with Udoka's mindset, as he's a winning player who does all the little things on the court. His impact was clear last season when he was a plus 88 when he was on the court, showing that the Rockets are much better when he's playing. For Jalen Green though, he had an up and down year, playing well enough offensively, but on the defensive side of the ball he was severely lacking, and under coach Udoka that isn't going to fly, as at times he benched Jalen at the end of games due to this. After seeing this, the Houston front office did not offer him an extension. For Jalen, he needs to work on his defensive effort in the offseason if he wants to stay in Houston long term. Then when we moved to Alfred Şengün, he was having a great season, putting up 21, 9, and 5 on 53% shooting. But in a game versus the Kings, that all changed, as he suffered a season-ending injury. After the season, it seemed like the Rockets front office forgot about just how talented he was when he was healthy, or they know something about the injury that we don't, as they also didn't offer him an extension. With a squad that's good enough to make some noise in the postseason, but still have questions around who's going to be in the long-term plans, this should be an exciting season for Rockets fans. The 17th thing you need to know before next season is how Jimmy Butler is in a contract year. By now, we all know the difference between postseason and regular season Jimmy Butler, as at times in the regular season, it feels like he's just doing side quests. But now that he's in a contract year, we might just see playoff Jimmy during the regular season. When Jimmy's in peak form, he's arguably a top 10 player on the NBA, and we saw that firsthand in the 2023 postseason, where he led the Miami Heat to the NBA Finals, beating Milwaukee, New York, and Boston. However, last season, because of injury, we didn't get to see playoff Jimmy, and in the regular season, he was only available for 60 games. Without him, the Miami Heat fell to the Boston Celtics in 5 games, despite big performances from Bam and Tyler Hero. Then after the series, something interesting happened between Jimmy and Heat GM Pat Riley. Only days after the Heat lost to the Celtics, Jimmy Butler had this to say on social media.
You got it? Yep. 1, 2, 3, action. If I was playing, Boston would be at home. New York, damn sure would be at home.
In response, Pat Riley made his thoughts very, very clear.
Is that Jimmy trolling, or is that Jimmy serious? You know, if you're not on the court playing against Boston or on the court playing against the New York Knicks, you should keep your mouth shut.
After this, Jimmy managed to do just that, but to say Jimmy has a lot to prove next season is an understatement. The 18th thing we need to know before the next season is just how good Scoot Henderson will be. After a bad rookie season by anyone's standards, averaging 14, 3, and 5 on bad efficiency, the career of Scoot Henderson looked up in the air. But after the injury later in the season, he appeared to find his footing, as over the final 19 games of the season, he was putting up 16, 3, and 7 on much better shooting numbers, making 35% from downtown compared to his 18% to start the season. The eye test was backing these numbers up also, here making the dime to Ayton down low for the easy finish. Now DeAndre Ayton sets the screen, and the Pelicans were so worried about the pass down low to him that they leave Scoot open, and he makes them pay. Coming into the league, we were told that his ceiling would be like a Russell Westbrook with a better jump shot, and later in the season we definitely saw flashes of that. Now again in the two-man game with DeAndre Ayton, Podziemski defends the pass, so again Henderson Henderson just takes the three-pointer and knocks it down. This two-man game with Ayton was effective down the stretch of the season, as now he uses it to get space to knock down a floater. But even without DeAndre Ayton, he could still get to the basket, here using his speed to blow by Kuminga, and then his strength to finish over Moody. Here off a bad pass from Jeff Green, Scoot Henderson comes up with the deflection and yams it on his head. These are the flashes of Russell Westbrook I was referring to earlier, as the career of Scoot Henderson is far from over just yet, and when you consider the work he was putting in with Stephen Curry to help his jump shot, year 2 for Scoot Henderson could be a big one. The 19th thing you need to know before the next season starts is how Nikola Jokic is still the best player. The Joker, even after being eliminated in the second round, still has the claim to be the best player in basketball. His level of passing and scoring is otherworldly, as Jokic is an effective 3-level scorer, and because of his height, he can make passes out of any situation, whether that be out on the break, in the post, or even in the mid-range. Here, instead of catching the ball, Jokic saves time by tipping it to Watson, and he gets an open 3. Now in the backcourt, Nikola makes the quarterback pass to AG for the finish. He makes plays like this look far too easy, now bouncing the ball through Kuminga's legs to find Gordon. And now in the Garden, he hits AG with a no-look over-the-head pass for the easy 2. Then when you combine this level of playmaking with his ability to score the basketball himself, Nikola Jokic is absolutely impossible to stop. And especially now that he's a champion, there's no way he still isn't the league's best player. The 20th thing you need to know about the next NBA season is how there's a decision to be made in Cleveland. Last season, the Cavs made another step in the right direction for the most part, but somehow it still almost felt like a wasted season. Even though they were able to make it out of the first round, it was still the same story in Cleveland. Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland are still struggling to coexist. In the games without Garland and with Donovan Mitchell, Cleveland went 14-5, with Donovan Mitchell putting up 29, 5, and 7 on 48% shooting. Then when Darius Garland returned, the Cavs dropped to 31 and 26, barely being a 500 team, with Donovan Mitchell now averaging 25, 5, and 5 on only 44% shooting. It's clear that a change needs to be made, as this Cavaliers team without Darius Garland instantly become a top team in the East overnight, and with him, they plummet to being a middling team. If I'm the Cavaliers GM, I play Darius Garland to start next season, hoping he increases his trade value, and then if things are looking very similar, I'll flip him at the deadline for a better wing. But if Garland and Mitchell can figure it out and have a great record with each other on the floor, that would be great, but I'm still not sold on a backcourt that features two 6'1" guys who can't play defense.